if I'm an employer running a family business, how do I take that temperature? How do I find out without being intrusive, so to speak, and how they're doing things?
Yeah, I think the secret here is a lot of times people will say to me, Joey, I'm anxious about prying into my people's personal lives. I'm anxious into seeming like a stalker, or bugging them too much. The best advice I can give lies under the umbrella of this principle of reciprocity. The principle of reciprocity tells us when interacting with other human beings that when we give, someone feels compelled to give back. Okay. So the secret here, leaders, is you go first. You talk about your life. You share your challenges. You come in and you say, hey, everybody, how was your weekend? I actually got the chance to just sit in the backyard and read a little bit. It's been a crazy week last week, and I just realized that I needed some time to decompress and just kind of put my feet up and read the paper. And yeah, the lawn didn't get mowed, and it probably should have. And yeah, the garage didn't get painted, and it probably could have. And yeah, the basement didn't get organized, and it probably might have. Well, no, that's never getting organized. But, I had a good weekend. How about you? What'd you do? See, what I did there is I went first. I made it okay to be vulnerable. I made it okay to share some things that were not, again, optimized for productivity, that were not optimized for accomplishment and efficiency. When we go first, it changes the conversation. The other way I think employers can do this is to set a standard within your culture around communicating openly and honestly. One of the companies that I profile in the book, there's over 50 case studies in the book. One of the companies is called Impact. And what Impact does is they send all of their employees 2 books between the time they get hired and the time they start their first day on the job, during that affirm stage, that new hires remorse stage we talked about. And one of the books is Radical Candor. And the principle of this book, it's a wonderful book if you get the chance to read it. The principle behind this book is we need to get better at being honest. We need to get better at giving feedback. And the assignment for the first week on the job is to read that book. So like you go to the office and you're sitting in your office reading. Now, some people look at that and they're like, Joey, reading is the first assignment at work? Yeah, because that's how key and important and foundational the principles in those books are to the culture of communication that they've established at Impact. So if you're listening in, you might be asking yourself, what are the things that are key and foundational in your organization that your people need to know? And how are you teaching that? How are you exhibiting that? How are you leaning into those conversations in a way that make it seem like the norm from day one on the job, or maybe even before day one on the job?
That's awesome. Yeah, when we're thinking about that, I love leaders go first when we're talking about being vulnerable, right? That's because that's really what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And then the reverse rule is when we're asking for employees' opinions on where we're going and what we're doing, leaders go last. So that they don't suck the air out of the room, because as soon as you give your idea as the leader, everybody's saying, oh yeah, what you said, where you're missing getting that valuable input by voicing your opinions first. So there's a good time to go first, vulnerability. You're asking for somebody to do something uncomfortable, maybe to share, and to go last when you're looking for how do we make things better, when we're looking for ideas and innovation. I love it. That's awesome.
Michael, that is so true. And in fact, what I try to use in my own internal compass, I don't know if this will be useful to anyone, is anytime I'm in a situation where I think, ooh, I've got something to say, I try to bite my tongue and wait a minute. Anytime I'm in a situation where I think, oh, I really don't want to get into this, I don't want to share first, I try to propel myself forward. And it's that same theory, right? Check in with how you're feeling. If you feel the need to pontificate and share your idea and perspective, that's fine. You're not going to forget it. I promise you, you will remember it in 10 minutes after everybody else talks. You're going to be fine. If you're not sure, jot a couple notes down, write it down, and refresh your recollection later. What I want to do is be in a situation where when someone has expressed vulnerability, that you match vulnerability, or where an opportunity for honesty is presented to itself, you speak to that. The way we remove the stigma that exist in the workplace around mental health, around hours worked, around what's appropriate or not appropriate, about work versus personal, is not to codify rules. It's not to come up with a playbook and a handbook that details these are the topics that can be discussed and these are the topics that can't. No, it's to create the environment where we can talk about things that are hard to talk about because we've established some ground rules. You know, I saw an interview, you mentioned Brene Brown earlier. I saw an interview recently that she did with Tim Ferriss on his podcast. And she was talking about her relationship with her husband, and that they come home at the end of the night and they say what percentage they're at. So she might come home and say, I'm at a 20 out of 100. And her husband will say, don't worry, I got you. I can pull the other 80 and we'll get us to 100. And she said there are times where he comes home and he's like, hey, I'm at like a 15. And she's like, don't worry, I got you. I got the other 85 tonight. But what was beautiful about this interview, Michael, is she said, every once in a while, I'll come home and I'll say, I'm at a 20. And he'll say, all I've got is 10. And she said, everything stops. And we sit down at the table and we talk about how are we going to interact in the next 24 hours to be kind to each other. Because see, this is the time when we know it's going to be really easy to be unkind. This is the time when we know it's going to be easy to be short with someone or hypercritical or be hysterical and historical by bringing up something that's old that has nothing to do with the conversation we're right in and ramming it. Well, remember that one time at our wedding 15 years ago when your mother-in-law or your mother said blah, blah, blah to mom. It's like, whoa, 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 let's pump the brakes. How can we be kind in this time? And then what's great is there are times where you might come and say, hey, I've got 90. And the other person says, I've got 92. Well, now you're having a 180% day.
Yeah.
This is what we need to do with our employees as well. Where are you at? Check in. You having a good day? You having a bad day? How was last night? How'd you sleep? How are the kids? How's the family? What's going on? What I worked with the last story because I get so excited about this stuff, Michael. I worked with a theater company one time out in the Berkshire, Shakespearean company, amazing Shakespearean acting theater company. And they do a check-in every time they have a meeting. Literally every time they have a meeting. And you might have 5 meetings in one day. This happens at the beginning of every meeting. They check in and they go around the circle and they'll do something like, if you were to use one word to describe how you're feeling right now, what would that word be? Or on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like, I am so looking forward to this meeting and I'm ready to rock. And 1 being like, I would rather be, stuck in a prison somewhere without ever having the opportunity for parole. Where are you right now? Or my favorite question they would ask, what is keeping you from being fully present in this meeting right now? And then someone can say, my kid's homesick, or my house caught on fire, or I've got 70 emails I need to respond to. And I know this meeting is 3 hours. And when I come out, I'm going to have 130 to respond to. Whatever it is, it just allows our humanity to come to the front of the conversation. That's how you create a remarkable business.